In 106 BC, the same year a much younger Sulla single-handedly captured Numidia's king Jugurtha. An Italian-Roman woman named Helvia gave birth to her first son. Helvia was married to a wealthy landholder whose ancestors had made their fortune in the farming of chickpeas. Her husband, being a semi-invalid, had been restricted from performing military and public duties, and so developed a strong appreciation for intellectual pursuits. Into an artistic home surrounded by a hard-earned collection of literary, philosophical, religious, mathematic, and scientific writings, Helvia's son arrived. And though he was a Roman citizen, Helvia's child, Marcus Tullius Cicero, was not a Roman of the Romans. Like Gaius Marius, Cicero was born in Arpinum, though he would make every effort to disassociate himself from any comparisons to the third founder of Rome turned madman. When Cicero reached the age of majority, and the time to begin his public career by entering the military, many urged him to formally change his cognomen, which meant chickpea. Cicero, however, refused, stating that he would make the name Cicero more glorious than Scaurus, which meant swollen ankles, or Catulus, which meant puppy dog. During Rome's social war, Cicero served his mandatory military duties under the commands of Sulla first and then Pompeius Strabo. It was in the army of Strabo, where Cicero likely served as a clerk, that he met and befriended Strabo's charismatic son, Pompeius. Because Cicero's friendship with Pompeius would last until death, 40 years later, we can confidently assume that Pompeius took the bookish, studious, and grateful Cicero under his wing, likely protecting him from the wrath of his harsh father. Following his military duty, Cicero began the traditional climb up the cursus honorum. Not yet old enough to hold public office, his fine oratory skills kept him in demand as an advocate within the courts. But, it was not until 80 BC that the name Cicero would draw the attention of every notable Roman in government, including the dictator. A man by the name of Sextus Roscius was accused of having his own father murdered in the streets of Rome near the end of the 81 BC year. Roscius, whose name then appeared on one of Sulla's proscription lists, claimed sanctuary at the home of a retired Vestal virgin who sought the advocacy of the 27-year-old Cicero. Patricide was the most appalling crime a Roman could commit. To murder one's own father was tantamount to murder of Jupiter himself, since the Roman father, as paterfamilias, was a reflection of Jupiter in his own home. A society where the father was not honored was a society which threatened the very existence of the gods. Patricide cases were risky for advocates to take because the instant hatred the accused met often meant the advocate could scarcely be heard over the insults, booing, and verbal abuse. Most patricide cases were lost to the detriment of the advocate's career. Cicero, however, took Roscius's case. The prosecution built its case around the common premise: who benefits? Since Roscius, as the beneficiary of his father's will, stood to profit from his father's death, it followed that Roscius had arranged his father's murder. Cicero argued that a man who was sole beneficiary to his father had no need to murder, as everything owned would come to him in due course. Cicero also noted that Roscius's name had not appeared on any proscription lists prior to his father's murder in late 81 BC. The property in question, which Roscius owned pending proscription, was valued at approximately 6 million sesterces, or roughly $3 million today. The problem with the proscription of Roscius, Cicero argued, was that Sulla had posted his final list in June of 81 BC. This meant that someone close to Sulla, who had the power to do so, had altered an old list to his benefit. The man who had been in charge of overseeing the proscriptions lists was one of Sulla's freedmen, Lucius Cornelius Chrysogenes. Cicero took an enormous risk and accused Chrysogenes of conspiring with the cousins of Roscius who had accused him of murdering his father. Rome's newest wordsmith painted for the jury a vivid picture of a plot in which Roscius's cousins murdered their uncle, and accused the son of his murder, but only after first entering into an agreement with Chrysogenes to purchase the property at auction price, and later split the money upon resale. Further investigation also proved that Chrysogenes had indeed purchased the 6 million sesterces property for a mere 2,000 sesterces, or $1,000 today. Cicero's defense of the Roscius case was an indirect criticism of the dictator Sulla, and the air of greed surrounding his proscriptions, which attracted the likes of Chrysogenes and other fortune hunters. Cicero's case revealed not only Chrysogenes' part in the Roscius murder, but caused public outcry to know how many properties the freedmen had acquired with the blood of their loved ones. The winning of Cicero's case forced Sulla to acknowledge that his freedmen had been responsible for deaths which would forever be laid at Sulla's feet. From this point, Lucius Cornelius Chrysogenes disappears completely from the historical record. We can assume Sulla had him executed, along with any others he found to be involved in the deception. But Cicero must have felt a heavy shadow over him for having exposed the corruption within the dictator's regime. So, like Caesar had done, Cicero decided to distance himself from Rome, and the changeable Sulla, who might decide tomorrow to exact his revenge on the young advocate.